Right, because how many people are drawn toward unhappiness? How many? Think of Jesus now. And again, we'll talk about the happiness of Jesus in the morning. But the children wanted to come to him.
Wow.
And the disciples tried to keep them away, which tells you something. Okay? They wanted to come to Jesus, and Jesus said, let the children come to me. And he took them up in his arms. Mm-hmm. How many children do you think were lining up to get in the laps of the Pharisees? But the Pharisees were the holy people. The holy people. In fact, the Pharisees' criticism of Jesus was that he went to parties. Right? Mm-hmm. He's a glutton and a drunkard. He's a friend of sinners. Yeah, he was a friend of sinners. Never downplaying the reality of their sin, saying, go and sin no more, but offering them his atoning blood to pay for their sins. He's a friend of sinners. We should be friends of sinners. Now, should we commit the sins that some people commit when they go to parties? No, of course not. But the problem's not the party. The problem's not the eating and the drinking. The problem isn't the dance. The problem isn't all the things that were on the don't do it list for the Pharisees and for a lot of modern people too, with the idea that if we can just stay away from those things the world does to have fun, then we will be holy and God will approve of us. But the problem, there's many problems with that. One, it's just false, because true holiness and true happiness are just like that. And just like there's a false happiness outside of Christ, which, you could call it a short-term happiness, there's also a false holiness. There's a self-righteous holiness. Well, true holiness is in Christ. It's not something we work up because we're so righteous and look at us. First of all, how many people will ever be drawn to Christ through unhappy, always critical, perpetually gloomy people? How many people will be attracted to that? How many people will come to a knowledge of Christ because of people who behave that way? Now, I realize we've got a big challenge because have I spoken negatively of abortion? Of course. Do I believe that some of the direction our culture has gone and some of the decisions and some of the laws have been dishonoring to God? Yes, I do. But here's the thing. If we send the message to the world around us of the good news of happiness in Christ, and we live that way, and the joy does make its way to our face. And maybe we as a church next year can celebrate the International Day of Happiness. I don't know if anybody else is celebrating it yet, but, and why not? Would that be great? And maybe, speaking of somehow the quote that disappeared from St. Francis of Assisi, but he was the patron saint of animals, right? So I think it's like sometime in October, there's an actual St. Francis Day. Well, we could do a thing. Nancy goes out and walks our golden retriever, Maggie. Well, she meets more people and has more relationships with more people because of that dog. Okay? So what about inviting your friends who are animal lovers to bring their animal over to the church property? I have not run this by the elders, okay? Okay. Or the custodial staff, or the bar, whatever. But you see what I'm... You come over and let's have a party. Let's have a feast. Maybe you just start with dogs the first year. I'm not sure you bring all animals, but whatever. Okay, but the International Day of Happiness, have a festival. We did this in the old days, a dunk tank where you got the pastors up there, and they really went for us.
How about if we start with you?
Yeah, there you go.
I'll pay big money.
But if we send that message to people that we're happy, we're going to put on a feast. Who's paying for all this? I thought they were going to charge us for it. No, the church is just doing this because we love the community. We'll get people to celebrate happiness and bring some good music. And by good music, I mean music that we would think is good, but also other people would think is good. And good music, and bring in this, and do all this stuff and send this message. So now when we have to, with sorrow, say, I really have to say, I believe this is wrong. But we say it because we love women and we don't want them to go through the horrors of abortion. And we believe that God advocates sexual purity and that you're way better off and ultimately happier when you follow the ways of God. Then I think when we are negative, it will have credibility because we're mostly positive. But if we're just negative all the time, if we're the ones that are sitting at the office and just talking about how gloom and doom and how terrible everything is and how miserable it all is and all this kind of stuff, are we drawing people to the Christ that we love? And are we truly following the Christ that we love?